All right, here's our video today. Underneath the moon. What's underneath the moon? And we'll talk about things called lava tubes. Let's write that down. Lava tubes. And if you think about going back, go back to folklore, people would describe the moon made of cheese. Just nursery rhymes, right? Made of green cheese, maybe a slab of Stilton or Gorgonzola. Of course, we know that's not true, and even people back then, they didn't take that seriously. It was just a thing to say in nursery rhymes. So I forgot to write lava tubes. Lava tubes. We're going to talk about lava tubes, and it could be very important for future missions. What is that over there? We don't know. Right? Lava tube. And the picture here. Let's talk about this picture over here in the Sea of Tranquility. That's where Apollo 11 landed. So Aristotle, we'll talk about Aristotle, Greek philosopher, ancient Greek philosopher. Let's write his name down. Aristotle, 2,000 years ago, well, over 2,000 years ago, he thought that all celestial bodies besides the Earth, they were made of a substance called ether. So he thought there was this substance called ether, and it was a perfect substance. We know it doesn't exist now. He called it the fifth element. And he thought the moon was made of this ether as well as other orbs that they saw in the sky. Because it was the fifth element along with fire. Fire was an element to the ancient Greeks, and water was an element, and air was an element, and the earth was an element for the ancient Greeks. So the fifth element was ether. Now Galileo, let's get a clean page here, by the way. Here we go, continuing with the gray theme. So Galileo, in the 1600s, right, way after Aristotle, he looked at the moon through his telescope, talking about the 1600s here, and he said the moon was solid, refuting Aristotle. And one of many things he did refuting Aristotle, getting house arrest for refuting Aristotle, by the way. And he said it was solid, made of rock and dirt, just like Earth. Rock and dirt. Solid body. And even Newton agreed with that. And today we know that the rock is made up of, it's not pure solid, like, the Earth has its layers, the moon has its layers. But it does have basalt. So the moon today, the moon always, right? We shouldn't say just today. But what we know today is that the moon has basalt. And that's volcanic rock, just like Earth. So the moon did have volcanic activity in the past. And it had other elements. It has other elements too, like olivine and so forth. But it has this interesting thing, regolith. Spell it right here, regolith. And regolith is just like this loose fragments, right over here, loose fragments of meteoroids. When meteoroids crashed into the surface. So loose fragments of meteoroids, which, by the way, with that intense heat of the impact, would create these tiny glass beads in this dust. So it's loose fragments of meteoroids, so it's just really just this fine dust. And Neil Armstrong, he described it, and Buzz Aldrin and other astronauts, they described regolith as this very fine powdery substance, and that was sharp. There was abrasiveness to it, and they knew that this abrasiveness would wear down spacesuits and equipment. That's the thing about regolith. Now, we also know, since the 1990s, we also know that there's ice on the moon at the polar caps, discovered in the 90s, which changed everything, because when the Apollo mission landed on the moon, they thought the moon was a dead planet. It wasn't worth exploring anymore because it had no water, no ice. Now that there's ice on the moon, it could help with future exploration of that planet, of that moon, not planet. Could help with our future bases if we wanted to have a base on the moon. Water was the key. And here's an interesting thing: what's on the moon is also the astronauts, when they were on the moon, well, they had to go to the bathroom, didn't they? Well, on the moon, there is these urine bags still on the moon from the Apollo astronauts. So, by the way, all those bags from the Apollo mission over 50 years ago, the bag that what I can't even get this out. Whatever was in those bags, like urine and any other material, would have desiccated. In other words, it would have just turned solid. But the bags that had a plastic covering, they would still be on the moon. So future missions, when the Artemis mission gets out to the moon, and if they land near that area in the Sea of Tranquility, they will see these urine bags. Anyway, we're talking beneath the moon, and there's been new evidence, within the last 2 years, that the moon may have caves. This is the main thing, which we talked about earlier. Caves. Let's get our pen working here. So we're talking about natural caves created by lava tubes, the flow of lava over the millions of years. And what's important about these lava tubes is they could hold more ice. So they could hold more ice. More ice. And this is important for future missions. But they can also protect the colonists. If there's going to be a colony on the moon, or astronauts themselves, they can protect them from the radiation that is bombarding, the cosmic rays and radiation that is bombarding the planet. I keep saying planet, it's a moon. Well, maybe it wants to be a planet. So these lava tubes, and here's some pictures where they think may be lava tubes, by the way. Let's get that. And this is the Schulter crater, as you can see up there. Picture Schulter, that's how you pronounce it. The Schulter crater, you can see the dark spots there. They could be shadows or crevices, but a lot of scientists think that these are lava tubes. And again, these lava tubes can protect the colonists, can protect the astronauts from radiation. And this Schulter crater, by the way, is in the Sea of Tranquility where the Apollo 11 astronauts landed. However, they didn't venture toward this crater. They were about 25 miles away from it. But the astronauts did see craters on the moon, by the way. They landed in the Sea of Tranquility because it's mostly a smooth surface. And here's another crater in the Sea of Tranquility where the Apollo astronauts landed. So again, lava tubes could be underneath the surface that could help future colonists. And just to finish what's underneath the moon has layers. It has a crust like Earth. It has a mantle, so the mantle may be, they think it's solid, but it could have softer liquid lava, magma, just like on Earth, but not as much as Earth. It has an outer core and an inner core. The moon may have a solid iron core, so the moon doesn't have, it can't protect itself from, the astronauts are bombarded by cosmic rays and radiation because the moon doesn't have a magnetic field like Earth does. So they think that the core is solid iron, not liquid iron like on Earth. All right, that's our video today.